Good morning, rock stars. How are you? I'm going to wait a few minutes to see if anyone pops in. I wanted to talk today about so I can be on my computer and my phone at the same time. I'm learning about how to go live. I see couple of people are coming in. Hi guys, hi rock stars. I wanted to talk today about YouTube strikes. I wanted to help everyone figure out how to avoid these terrible, terrible things and why. Why YouTube is so concerned about copyright strikes. Hey Sandy, Kay, how are you? Good morning. God bless you on this day. I love that you say that. Hi Heather. Heather Hernandez, thanks for stopping by. My setup here is a bit shoddy. Um, can you guys hear me okay? Hi, Oreo the Bunny, Irish Whiskey Paranormal, rock on. So I wanted to talk today a little bit about copyright strikes and to figure out why YouTube cares so much about these and why they're taking down videos left and right because of copyright strikes. And thank you, Sandy. Thank you very much. Hi, dear Cam. Good morning, rock on. I always say that. Actually, Sandy, I have a question for you. I use this all the time, and I use it as a rock on symbol, but it could be construed as like an evil symbol. What do you think? I've had this question for a while, and I meant to ask you the last time I was in one of your lives. But I wanted to talk about copyright strikes too, so if you Sandy, if you can leave a little comment and let me know about this, because I don't want to promote the wrong thing. I use it as a rock on, like keep being a rock star, go for what you want, kind of a symbol. So YouTube has this video out by an attorney. It does. It does. Actually, this, I think, is I love you in sign language. And I really like that. Maybe I should put my thumb out when I do it. So there is a video that YouTube has out by an attorney, and I've watched it several times because when I first watched it, I was like, maybe not. But then the second time I watched it, I was like, oh, okay. I caught some things that he said that were right. And so this attorney has a link in his video to get a downloadable copy of tips and tricks for avoiding copyright strikes, and I emailed that and it still hasn't come in, so I was waiting for that. Good. Thank you, Heather. Thank you. I was worried about that. Um, so let's talk about copyright strikes. Have any of you had a copyright strike? I've not had one, but YouTube did take down my channel for a little over a day because they said I was spamming. And it's just because I put cheers and rock on in all my comments. I was watching a ton of videos. I had just connected to all sorts of new people, watching a ton of videos, and I was commenting on them all. I was watching the whole video. I always do that. And commenting on them. And I always say cheers and rock on because I want everyone to be the rock star that they are. But I am having trouble sticking to copyright strikes. So let's talk about copyright strikes. So what is you had a warning? Okay. So why do we even have these laws? These laws are meant to protect creators and meant to protect artists, anyone that creates anything. And there are 8 categories of things that copyrights protect. And I'm going to try to pull those 8 things up. I had them memorized, but they're gone. Um, Copyright law, copyright protection list. So this is really this is really meant to do the right thing and to keep people from stealing from stealing other people's ideas, from profiting off something that someone worked really hard to create, really hard to design, really hard to put out there. And that's the whole gist behind this law. And what YouTube is trying to avoid is lawsuits. Lawsuits are expensive, they're not fun. They take forever, they take years to settle, tons of money, tons of time. It diverts YouTube's resources away from developing their platform. It takes those people's time away when they have to deal with a lawsuit. And so what they're trying to do is avoid lawsuits. And they also want to make sure that people who own artistic works are not being ripped off on their platform. That's really what this is all about. And so this, if you haven't seen this video that I linked, it's a good thing to watch. And so what YouTube is using is the guidelines that courts use to determine if fair use is taking place. And good morning, Autovirals. Thank you for joining. So where was I? This is like my third live. I'm not fantastic at these yet. So YouTube is trying to do two things. They're trying to avoid being sued by creators, and they're also trying to make sure that creators' rights are protected. And all you have to do to have a copyrightable thing, thank you, Sandy. All you have to do to have a copyrightable thing is to have something with an artistic twist to it, and then it has to be materialized somehow. And that's straight out of the statute. If you read the statute, it'll say that how you have it materialized in some way is typically written down, videotaped. This is one way to have it materialized. So one example of a copyrightable work not being materialized is someone getting up on stage and singing a song that they just made up in that moment and not writing it down. If they get up on stage, there's no video of it, it's not materialized. So you have to materialize it. YouTube is a way of materializing it. And then so there are guidelines. The courts are using guidelines, and really the only entity that could ever determine fair use is a court. And how you get there is having the copyright owner sue you, which you don't want to do. But the courts have guidelines, and that's what this YouTube guy is talking about, this attorney is talking about, is that YouTube is using those guidelines that are set up by the courts to determine if they should take your video down. Now, just because they don't take your video down doesn't mean it's fair use. That only a court can decide that. It's not legal advice that I'm giving here. It's just a fact that I'm stating. And the things that the guy in the video talks about are time. So if you are using a lot of, let's say you want a video clip, right? Use a short amount of a movie, a short amount, because what they don't want is you stepping on the heart of the video. So you can take a little clip, is what they're saying, and use it as fair use. So timing, I'm sorry, I'm seeing the number change, and I'm wondering what happened. Where did everybody go? Did I chase you away? So timing. So one of the things that YouTube looks at is how much of a copyrighted work that you use, and the shorter the better. Then they look at how you're using that. So you can transform the work. You're allowed to talk about the work. We have free speech here in the United States. So if you see a video or something that you want to talk about, okay. Well, thank you for hanging out with me, Heather. I appreciate it. Where was I? Oh, talk about it. So we're allowed to talk about things. And if you take a video clip and then discuss it, that helps tip it in favor of being fair use. But again, only a court can decide that. YouTube is YouTube would look at it that way. Um, yes, we are. Hi, Dan's Organic Food Forest. How are you? Um, we can talk about anything that we want. We can't do anything we want. So there's two sets of rules. I'll go off on a little tangent here. There's a set of rules for what you can say and a set of rules for what you can do. Sometimes there's a little bit of speech in between those two that overlaps. So you can say anything you want as long as you're not trying to harm the public with it, which is an example of this is shouting fire in a crowded theater because you're going to cause a stampede. So that's one of the examples that kind of crosses over between the two uh, sets of rules. You have one set of rules that governs what you say, and we're allowed to talk about anything. We're allowed to come together as a common good. And thanks, Heather, for hanging out. I appreciate it. Have a good rest of your day. And then there's a set of rules that governs what you do. And so even in criminal cases, right, you have to have an intent. You have to have intent to commit a crime. That's one of the requirements. And so you may be thinking that you want to harm someone, and that there's no problem there. Now, if you say that you want to harm someone, then that's where it happens, and that's where the intent comes into play. So that's where the two sets of rules kind of overlap. I don't know if that's helpful or not. But we are allowed to say whatever we want. Absolutely. We're allowed to give opinions all over the place. The only thing that's not protected is profanity. Profanity is not protected by free speech. So, how to avoid copyright strikes? Let's go back to that. Uh-oh. So I'm having some internet troubles. Keep opening your mouth, Sandy. Keep going on. That's how we grow and develop as a society. That's how we take ideas and move them to the next level and change the world. Absolutely. Keep rocking on. Rocking on. That is, cussing is not covered by free speech. The Supreme Court has talked about that quite a bit. If you just Google that, you'll find it. Profanity, and there are like pornography too is not covered under free speech. So a couple of other things that you could do if you want to use somebody else's work in your video, you have to keep it short. And you have to, you can discuss it. You can discuss its implications. You can discuss its implications on society, on life, you can disagree with it. Hi, it's My Life DD family. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Congratulations on your success on YouTube. So you can discuss it, and if you take a piece of pop culture or something that moves you, pop it into a video and then talk about it, YouTube will look at that as a fair use of the copyrighted material. So what else does he say here? I wish he had emailed me what he said he would email me. He hasn't sent it. Another thing that you can do too is reach out to the copyright owner and get permission to use the copyrighted material. That takes a little bit of time, and it's hard because we're in a fast society that's instant gratification, and everyone's moving fast and pumping out videos, and it takes a little bit of time to get the permission, but you can ask for the permission to use it. I reached out to Shell Bizzle. I don't know if you guys know Shell Bizzle on YouTube, SHELBIZLEEE. She is the most passionate person I've met about the environment. She's an environmental scientist, and she has a saying. Her saying is, you cannot do all the good the world needs, but the world needs all the good that you can do. And I fell in love with that saying. I love that saying. And so I reached out to her. I do not have Twitter or Instagram under this, under my Living the Dream account. I don't. I just have this YouTube channel. But Shell Bizzle does. And so I reached out to her through, she has her email address there and she has an Instagram account. And I reached out to her and I said, hey, I absolutely love your quote. It motivates me. It lit me up inside. Farmall Fanatic is in the house. Rock on. I reached out to her. So I was just talking about a quote by Shell Bizzle on YouTube that I absolutely love. And she says that you can, her saying, her tagline in her videos is that you cannot do all the good the world needs, but the world needs all the good that you can do. And that totally lit me up inside and set a fire inside me. And I reached out to her because I wanted to be able to say that. I wanted to be able to use her quote in my videos. And she said yes. So I have permission. So that's another way that you can avoid copyright strikes is by getting permission from the copyright owner. I'm looking for, oh, here we go. Tip number 4, modify the original. So I have the link in the chat box there to a video by a YouTube attorney that has some tips, 5 different tips for avoiding copyright strikes. And he talks about modifying the original. So what does this mean, modifying it? This does not mean you can make a derivative work. So a derivative work would be something similar to, let's say, the Statue of David. Let's say that that is still copyrighted. It's not, but let's say that it was. You wanted to take that statue and turn it into a lamp. That would be a derivative work. You can't do that. But if you take the Statue of David and turn it into Axl Rose, that would be a transformative work. And that's what YouTube is saying that you can do, and they will look at it as a fair use of the copyrighted work. And then tip number 5, what else has he got here? What this guy didn't understand is that you only hold people's attention on YouTube for 2 or 3 minutes, and his video is 9 minutes. So he should have cut this down to 3 minutes. Hopefully that email will come in soon. I'm going to pull up the fair use guidelines online here and then talk about them there. So you can find it on Wikipedia. And YouTube, and like the guy says in his video, he's not a court. He can't actually, YouTube is not the end all be all answer of whether it is fair use or not. That has to be determined by a court. A court is the only entity that can determine if a use is fair use or not. And how do you get there? The copyright owner sues you. That's how you get there. But YouTube is looking at the guidelines that have been set out by the courts, and they're using those to give strikes or not give strikes. And they're doing this for 2 reasons. They want to avoid lawsuits. They don't want to be sued by copyright owners, and depends on the conversation. And they want to make sure that the artists that own copyrights, and any artist owns a copyright, as soon as you have an artistic work that is materialized in some way, written down, videoed, photographed, that is materialized in some way, you have a copyright. Whether you file for the copyright or not, you have copyright rights. Let's see, fair use. I should have had this pulled up sooner. Examples of fair use. So the purpose and character of the work, including whether such is of a commercial nature or nonprofit for educational purposes. So that's something too. What they're trying to do is avoid others making money on the work that an artist created. That money should go to the artist. The artist owns full control over their work. And yes, you can give credit to the creator, and that does help. That absolutely does help, is giving credit to the creator. it does help, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's fair use, but it does help. Absolutely. Make it clear that you yourself are not trying to grab the copyrights on the work, that this work was created by this person. You are using it because you want to, welcome back, that you want to talk about it, you want to give an opinion, you want to um, transform it in some way. Um, and then something else that they look at too is the effect of your transformation on it on the marketplace. So, are you destroying the work? Are you um, impacting the value of the copyrighted work in some way? And the YouTube video that I, the attorneys put up didn't talk about this, but that's something that a court would look at. I guess the YouTube guidelines aren't checking that out for avoiding copyright strikes. So, for the few people that are still in here, any of you had a copyright strike? What happened? How did you get around it? Is it still pending? These are the clothes I'm wearing. He tells you what clothes he's wearing in this video. I wish he would have typed in his 5 tips. That's right. Okay, so let's talk about that. So you own the music. What you own is that recording. You do not own the copyright to the music. The publishing company probably owns the copyright to the music. You own that piece. You own that little snippet, that one publication of it. That's what you own. You don't own the copyright, so you don't have the right to share it. Now you can license the copyrights um, to music. There, maybe I'll do another video on licensing, how you license music. There are 3 main companies that license music, and it's not very expensive to license the music for publication. Let me see if I can quickly pull that up. Let me see. I'm just searching for it. I should have had this pulled up sooner. But you can license it. You can pay for it. Yeah. Don't. So, most lessons in life I have learned by stepping in it. I've learned by stepping in it. And then you remember, right? It's kind of hard to forget that you shouldn't do it that way when you step in it. Hi, Sandy. Good morning. Thanks for joining. So, but you can, so even if you own, so when you purchase a piece of music, you don't own the copyright. That's why you can't use it. If everybody owned the copyright to the music, the creators of the music would have no control over the music itself. And that's one of the rights that they have through their copyright, is that they have total control over their music, how it's used. And that's why even though you pay for the download, you don't get the copyright with it. But you can license music, and I took a whole class on this. I'm not an attorney, I can't give legal. My YouTube stuff doesn't give me an ethical violation on the bar side before I take the bar exam. I'm not an attorney, I can't give legal advice. So there are 3 agencies that you can license music through, and one of them, the Harry Fox Agency. Um, there are compulsory licenses available for music and videos. They have to license it out, and you just pay for it. As long as you throw some money that way towards the copyright owner, because the copyright owner will get some of that money. It flows back up to the copyright owner. Um, Once you can license the rights to the copyright in order to use it for YouTube or whatever. And there are compulsory licenses for some things. They have to license it out. You just pay the fee. I think it's a few dollars. It's not even that much money. And you can get the copyright rights. You can get the right to use it in whatever your work is, and go forth and prosper with that. And it's not difficult to do. Once I find it, I'll go back. Once I find the link, I will go back and pop it into the description of this video for anyone that wants to reach out to the licensing agencies and just license it. In the intellectual property world, it is always better to ask for permission than forgiveness. Um, Asking for permission is much, much cheaper than asking for forgiveness, and it takes a lot less of your time too. But the one thing that we all want to avoid, right, is ending up in court. It's I have not met anyone besides lawyers that enjoy being in court. For depositions, for being the plaintiff, definitely being the defendant, that's not a fun time. You don't want to do it. So in the IP world, anything to do with intellectual property rights, it's always best to ask for forgiveness, or I'm sorry, for permission than forgiveness. Thank you, Sandy. I appreciate that. Yeah, you guys are going to get me into trouble. No spam words. So YouTube looks for, I don't have any moderators. I don't even know how to make someone a moderator. Add moderator. Cool. Let's be careful with S words. So what is an S word? I didn't know about this, and I totally stepped in this pile of steaming. I don't want to say the word, but I stepped in a steaming pile in my first entry into BNO Outdoors Live. I don't know. I think everyone here knows BNO Outdoors. And I didn't know that there were naughty S words, and there are naughty S words, and the YouTube bots are out looking for them. And one of the naughty S words, subscribe. I did a YouTube. Okay, I'll have to check that out. I write patents on this technology. I don't know how to do it. So those that don't know how to do it, okay. Thanks for staying. I appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out, Sandy. I appreciate your time, and I hope that you have a very blessed day. Yes, so the bots are out looking for these words, and what they're trying to stop is the sub for sub culture, which nobody should do anyway. It's better for YouTube. Subscribe to the channels that you like. If you don't like the channel, don't subscribe to it. But what all these networking things do is, yes, be very, very careful with that word. So with the networking streams, I love the networking streams. I have met so many amazing channels on the networking streams that I would never have met without the streams. And so the YouTube is trying to stop this sub for sub culture, this sub for sub culture. You don't want to do this. If you like the channel, subscribe to it. And if you don't like the channel, don't subscribe to it. What the networking sites are for is to help introduce you to channels that maybe you would never have found. Thank you. Thank you. The bots have already found me, so I got their attention once. I would prefer to avoid getting their attention in the future. So back to copyrights and fair use. So one of the things, when I first watched this video by this attorney, I didn't read the title, and I didn't realize that he was really focusing it on fair use in YouTube. And when I first watched it, he said that if you do these things, it's fair use. And I was like, no, no, because only a court can determine if it's fair use. And when I went back and watched, I've watched it a few times now. When I went back and watched it again, I realized, oh, he's just talking about in view of YouTube. YouTube is using the guidelines that have been set out by the courts to issue strikes, not issue strikes, take away things, take away videos, give videos back, and he's right. So I will pop the link in again once I can get connected to the internet again on my computer. And I should tell, putting the words fair use in your description helps. It does help. It is not an end all be all absolute, this is fair use, but it does help. So I recommend popping those words into there because it shows that you are not intending to step on somebody else's rights. That you really do believe that you are using it fairly, that you are discussing it in some way. It's a short thing. You're not using a big part of it. So one of the things I want to pop up on YouTube, and I haven't done it yet, is I have a the movie Mean Girls. So I'm in law school and I'm graduating in May, and I'm much older. I'm much older than the rest of the students at the law school. And this movie Mean Girls really seems to resonate with the 20-somethings. I wish that they remembered the moral of the story. They remember that, October 9th, the thank you Sandy Kay. They remember that October 9th was the guy that the day that the hot guy talked to Caddy. But they don't remember the moral of the story, which is don't be a mean girl. Like, don't do it. Don't backstab each other. They seem to miss this. But this movie in general, I digress. This movie really resonates with the 20-somethings. So I have a whole presentation. I'm the vice president of the Intellectual Property Law Society at my law school, and I put together this whole presentation using Mean Girls. Now, at the law school, I feel fine, absolutely fine, using the images. I have snapshots of the movie, and I talk about how these 17-year-olds have IP rights. They have intellectual property rights. How teenagers came up with intellectual property, things that can be covered by intellectual property rights, and to express how intellectual property touches everything. Intellectual property law touches everything. And so I have this deck, and it's awesome, and it sparked amazing conversations, and it kept everybody awake in the room when I presented this, which was a plus. When you have law students sitting still, it's hard to keep them awake because we don't sleep much. And it kept them all awake. And I'd like to take this presentation and put it on YouTube. I'd like to voice it over and talk about it and highlight how even teenagers come up with things that have intellectual property rights attached to them. And I'm working with an attorney to try to get permission to do that, because I don't want to end up in court over using these images. Now, at the law school, you are absolutely allowed to use copyrighted material and educational purposes, and I didn't make any money on it at all. There's no way to make money on it in law school, so it was for education, and there was no money. So I felt absolutely fine using that at the law school without the permission of the owner of the movie. But if I pop this up on YouTube someday, maybe, hopefully with, God's good grace and blessings, I will be monetized. And if I'm monetized, then I will be making money off using those images. And so I am working with an attorney right now to figure out what the best way is to pop that on YouTube, not only so that I meet the requirements by YouTube with their fair use, but also to make sure that I avoid anything in the court realm, because I don't want to be pulled into court for hurting someone's rights. Like, I don't want to fight that fight. Um, so that's a little information about copyright strikes. Does anyone have any specific questions about copyright anything? Um, if you do, and if it's a question that requires legal advice answer, I can hook you up with an attorney to answer that. I can't give legal advice. I can talk generally. We're just talking about the YouTube world. So, um, I think it would be okay. Um, the only entity that could ever explicitly determine if it is okay is a court, and I want to avoid going there. So if I can get permission from the owner of the movie to do this, I'm going to do that first. It's considered plagiarism, getting credit from someone else's work. Absolutely. And that's something that's huge in law school. They beat that into us severely. They severely beat that into us. We have to cite everything, even if it's a fact. Like even if we're putting a fact in there, like there are, I don't know, this planet is called Earth. We have to we have to cite it. They really beat that us into us in law school. But if you have a question about copyrights or something, um, in the YouTube world, I think I can answer it. If it's something closer to like what would happen in a court or would require legal advice, I can't answer that, but I could hook you up with someone that could answer it. Um, the only people on the planet that are allowed to give legal advice legally are attorneys, and I have a bunch of those in my world. I hope that this helped some of you figure out how to navigate YouTube and using other people's work in your videos. Um, the tips that the attorney gave, I'll pop the link in here again. If you check out this video, it's by an attorney. He gave 5 tips. Keep it short. So as long as you are in the YouTube world, not in the outside, not outside of YouTube. We're just talking about YouTube. Use, let's see, strikes hit that they go after the money and not having the video taken down. I've seen where the copyright strike hits you, but they go after the money and not have the video taken down. I had no idea. So far, I've been able to avoid a copyright strike, and I hope to continue to avoid that. I don't know what you were just talking about. After the money. So maybe they just want you to pay for the right to use the copyright. And I get that. Yeah, they say the video will stay up and take all the profits of the video. Ooh, wow. Who gets the profits of the video? Does it go to the copyright owner? That's fascinating. I had no idea that they did that. That's fascinating. Does YouTube keep the money? Does YouTube give it over to the copyright owner? Oh. So they punish you by taking your money. I get it. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's wow. I had no idea. Had no idea that they did that. I could see. It makes sense, right? The if we think generally just about court in general, like civil cases, the only remedy. Well, there's 2 remedies that a court can give you. They can give you money, right? They can make the losing side pay, and then they can also get people to stop doing bad behavior. Those are the 2 things. So I could see where YouTube picked up well, we're going to hit you in the pocketbook because that's the only way, that's really the only thing that they can do, right? To make it sting, besides taking down your account. So they'll take away your money. I had no idea that they did that. Thanks for letting me know. You learn something new every day. So to recap the few things that you can do. Ugh. So is it gone, Irish Whiskey? Is it now gone off your page that you've been punished? So then it's gone. right? So you get this warning, and I know there's somewhere on the account. Um, my pleasure. My pleasure. I know there's somewhere in your YouTube account where it gives you like smiley faces, right? And it says your copyright strikes, it's like a smiley face, and then it changes into a sad face depending on strikes. Do you have something there, or did it go away because they punished you? It's a warning, so there's no actual strike, and they punished you. They took away your cash. Or do you have a sad face there? I'd like to know. I moved to private. I don't know what that means. Was your account like a business account before? And you're probably getting timed out because there's not many people talking in this chat, and so I'll be patient. So YouTube, what YouTube is allowing, welcome back. So what YouTube is considering fair use, not the legal world, YouTube. For the legal world, you need a court and a lawyer to figure that out. And even the lawyer can't make the decision, just a judge. But for the YouTube world, what they're looking at as fair use is short. Use a short clip, a short little snippet, comment on it, talk about how it impacted you, how it impacts society, thank you, how it impacts society. Let's see here. Hi, Living with Diabetes. Thank you for stopping by. Make it short. I will record until I delete the video. A happy face still. Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's good to know that they give you a first, like a beeping kind of a thing, like, hey, you're getting close here to stepping in it, which is nice. But they still punish you for it, right? So your first offense, they give you a beeping, a loud beeping, like when you're backing up. And if you have a backup camera, I don't on my car, but if you have one, you know how it starts beeping pretty loudly as you're going to hit something. That's what I'm envisioning what happened to you, that you had a beeping that, hey, you're getting close to this, and we're still going to punish you and take away your rights, but at least it's not a formal strike. So let me get back to the tips that they give you. Make it short. I've said that many times. Comment on it. Talk about how it impacts you, how it impacts society. Transform it in some way. Transforming it, turning it into something different. So it's not a derivative work. Derivative means that you're taking, I used the Statue of David earlier, which isn't copyrighted anymore because it's now in the public domain. That's maybe something I'll come back and touch on too, is how long copyrights last. The Statue of David was done many, many years ago. And so if you want to make a derivative work is taking the Statue of David and turning it into a lamp, right? That's a derivative work. But you can transform it in some way. So if you want to transform it, taking the Statue of David and making him look like Axl Rose. Although be careful with that, because Axl Rose owns the rights to his person. So if you want to take the Statue of David, let me give a better example. If you want to take the Statue of David and turn him into a cat, that would be a transformative work. You're allowed to do that on YouTube. YouTube considers that a transformation. Giving credit is another way, and saying that you are not using the rights, making sure that it's short, because copyright owners own all the rights to that copyright. They have full control as to what is used, how their work is used. That comes with the copyright laws, the copyright rights. That comes with the rights to the copyright, is that they can control how it's distributed, how it's used, everything about it. They can destroy it. They can create more. They're allowed to create derivative works. Um, you can reach out for permission to use it. So I had mentioned about licensing music. There are entities out there that license music. It's not expensive. You can pay for the rights to use the copyright. I think it's a few dollars. And certain things in that licensing realm, especially music, it's a compulsory license. So if you just request the license, you get it. There is no needing like negotiating. It's if you request the license, you get it, and then if you have the license to use the copyright, uh, I don't know what that agreement may look like. It may have some restrictions on how you can use it, but you just use it within the terms of the agreement. You can put it in your video and rock on. Um, so asking for permission in the intellectual property world is much better than asking for forgiveness later. And what else did he say? I can't remember. I think I got through 4 of them. I emailed him. So the one thing I'm not enjoying is that I followed the instructions on his site and emailed him asking for the download that he promised that he would send. And it said check my email and it's not here. Um, and you should receive your email. Nope. So let's go through this very, very fast. When I'm done with the live stream, I'll go back into the description and pop the links for licensing music. The Harry Fox Agency licenses music. If you get the license, and they're not very expensive, it's not cost prohibitive in the slightest. If you get the license, then you should be allowed to use it, and then you just pop in your description, I licensed this. Okay, so what was that? Tip 1. I missed it. Tip 1 is short. Make it short. Tip 1 is make it short. Tip 2 is comment on it. Yep. Talk about it. Talk about how it impacts society, how it impacted you. Give your opinions. Opinions are protected free speech. You're allowed to talk about your opinions on anything. So long as you're not using profanity. Yeah, it's a good video. He does a nice job. I see he uses a Guns N' Roses image here, and I'm a huge fan of Guns N' Roses. I didn't see what he said as his tip 3. I'm missing it. I should have written them down. Tip 4, modify the original. There are... You're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate the help. What does he say here? He didn't put in a card for tip 3. And now I have an ad. So for the, I'll pop the link in here again. It's worth a watch. You can watch it at double the time. So it'll won't take you 9 minutes to get through it. It'll take 4.5. And these are the things that YouTube is looking for to not, so that you guys can avoid getting these copyright strikes. I think I'm going to I think I'm going to get off here soon. Or did I say I was going to talk about something and then forgot? Oh, that's what I said. How long a copyright lasts. So there's a lot of work that's in the public domain and you can use it freely. Copyrights, there are 2 different rules that govern how long a copyright lasts. and I can't give legal advice. I'm not an attorney. So I'm going to straight up read it from the U.S. Copyright Office, um, to make sure that I am not in violation of giving legal advice without being an attorney. So copyrights last for, if you're a company, okay, so as a general rule, for works that are created after January 1st, 1978, a copyright lasts for the life of the author or the artist plus an additional 70 years. So from the day that the artist or author passes away, it's still covered for another 70 years. For an anonymous work, a pseudonymous work, or a work made for hire, a work made for hire is with, take it out of context. Thank you, Sandy. That's transformative. Yes, take it out of context. Use it in some other way. Absolutely right. Yes. Thank you, Sandy. Rock on. So a work made for hire, I can talk about that after how long it lasts. The copyright endures for 95 years from the year of its first publication, or 120 years from the date of its creation, whichever expires first. So there's two sets of rules. So you have a set of rules that govern individuals and individual created works, and then you have another set of rules that governs a company or a company created work, a work created by a business. For the individual, it will last 70 years after the person dies. For the company, it lasts 95 years from the first date of publication, or 120 years after the date of its creation, whichever one expires first. So all of Shakespeare's stuff is in the public domain. There's no copyright on it. You can use Shakespearean things. I know that there's been a lot of talk in the IP community about Disney's rights and the copyright on Mickey Mouse and how that's going to be expiring soon. And there's a lot of activity and frenzy over what's going to happen when Mickey Mouse is on the market, when everyone can use Mickey Mouse freely. So that's how long a copyright lasts. They do. They used their rights well. They did. They understood IP law, and they went in and used it really, really well to protect their assets. So intellectual property, maybe I could start there. I don't know if I put that in my first video about IP or not. So what is intellectual property? What is this? It's creations of the mind. So intellectual property law and rights protect creations of the mind. Anything that you can think up. There is an IP right associated with it. So if you think up a painting, a music, even software is protectable by copyright. Architecture, that's all protectable by copyright. If you think up something that has a new and useful place in the world, if it has a utility or a function, that's covered by patents. If you think up a logo or a brand to market your business, that's covered by trademark law. If you think up a new way of doing business, a new way of getting customers, that's trade secret law. That's why Article 13 was talked about. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then trade dress. So trade dress isn't something that you register. You just get it over time. Trade dress is how a product or a thing is dressed. So for instance, UPS, if you saw, I just gave away the answer, but if you saw a delivery driver in brown shorts and a brown top, if you saw someone from the back, no writing on him, holding a package in brown shorts and a brown top, what company is that? You know that that's UPS. If you see a cup a white coffee cup with a green circular logo. Even though there's no writing, you can't see the image in the logo, you know that that's Starbucks. So that's trade dress. And that just comes with time. There's no registering trade dress. There's no registering trade secrets either. Trade secrets, first rule of Trade Secret Club is that nobody talks about trade secrets. Like, that's the first rule. So you have to keep it secret. The trademarks are a use it or lose it rule. Not That's the only one that has this use it or lose it part of it is trademarks. So if you have a trademark that you're something that you're using in business, if you don't use it, you will lose it. Yeah, the public can come in and file a petition to cancel the mark, and someone else can come in and register it for something else. The other IP rights, the other 4 intellectual property rights, are not use it or lose it rights. So even with copyrights, even if you never use your copyright, you never enforce it, you never license it, you never do anything with it, you still have it. Trademarks are the only one that's a use it or lose it right. I digress. Clearly, I like intellectual property law. I've been in the intellectual property field since I was a kid. I'm a second generation patent practitioner. I'm registered with the United States Patent and Trademark Office to prosecute patents. I don't have a law license, but I have a license to I'm registered with them. I'm a patent agent, and I can prosecute patents with them, which is what I do. I help inventors get patents. And how you get this? Everyone I've run into that I say I'm a patent agent, and they say, "What is that?" And I say, "Oh, I'm registered with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. I took their bar exam." They immediately think you're a lawyer. No, you don't have to be a lawyer to be a patent agent. You just have to have a hard science background. So I went to school for chemistry. I have a BS in chemistry, a minor in math. I have a hard science background. I qualified to sit for the patent bar. You don't have to be a lawyer for that. I sat for it, passed it, now I'm registered, and they allow me to represent, quote unquote, clients before the United States Patent and Trademark Office. I don't have the right to stand up in front of the board or orally argue anything. That right is solely restricted to attorneys. I don't have that right. But I do, to get a patent, it's all through correspondence, and I'm allowed to do that. But if you get to a point where you need someone to stand up and orally argue in appeals court, or if it comes out of the United States Patent and Trademark Office and ends up in a court, the United States Patent and Trademark Office is not a court. If it ends up in a court, you need an attorney for that. I can't do that. Trademarks require an attorney, or you can file it yourself. You can use the help of a paralegal to fill out the forms or something, and then you can file it yourself, or you need an attorney. As a patent agent, I am not allowed to do trademarks without an attorney present. I can help assist an attorney with filing trademarks, but until I get my own law license, I can't do it on my own. Hopefully you guys learned something new. I love IP law. I love everything about it. It touches everything. Even criminal law. Did you guys know that trade secret misappropriation comes with criminal penalties? The one thing I have really enjoyed about patent law is that it's a happy law. Typically, it's a happy law. People come out at the end with this patent. I have a video showing a patent. This gorgeous document with a gold seal on it. They come out at the end with proof that their idea was new and useful and not obvious, and it's published. They get this patent, and so it's a happy law. And the same thing with trademarks. You get that registration on your trademark that yes, you are allowed to go forth in business and use this mark with your business, and nobody else can use this mark. You own the rights. It's a happy law, unlike criminal law, which is not a happy law. I did my externship at the Public Defender's Office. I used the Public Defender's Office because I knew I would never do anything criminal. But I wanted to learn it. I wanted to learn something because trade secret rights come with criminal penalties. And so I went, I loved it actually at the Public Defender's Office. I wish that they made more money. I would go do that. They make as much as like a receptionist at a law office. It was awesome. I met the most incredible people there. I had my 7-Eleven license, so in my state, if you're a law student and you have a certain amount of requirements and criteria met, the Supreme Court of the state will issue you a limited license to practice law, and you're allowed to stand up in court and stand up in front of judges and argue things. And so they put me on bond hearings and preliminary hearings. I've never been arrested. I had no idea. I had no idea how all that worked. I didn't know, and maybe I should do a full video on this someday to help people out. If you're arrested, your first time in front of a judge is not the time to tell your story. And that was so hard that I felt terrible for all these people that were in jail. My job was to get them out of jail, to get them out on bond, excuse my frog, to get them out on bond. And in order to get a bond, you have to show the court two things: that you will return, that you will come back to your next court date, and that if the judge releases you, you're not a threat to society. Those are the two things that it is the public defender's job to show the court in order to get a bond. And in that first time in front of a judge, like, these poor people, some of them, pardon me. Some of these people, this is their first time being arrested and they don't know, and I didn't know. I would have been, my first time in front of a judge, I would want to tell my story, like, hey, listen, I was unconstitutionally seized, blah, blah, blah. Like, I would want to do that my first time in front of a judge. That's not what that first hearing is for. You get a Gerstein preliminary hearing just to see if they had probable cause to arrest you or not. They typically find probable cause because they don't want to take that power away from the police to be able to arrest. So typically they find probable cause. It's a rare case that the judge will throw out an arrest right at that first bond hearing, Gerstein hearing. And so we get these people. Some of them I had met, and I live in a very big city, and it was down on a side of the city that's known for being kind of rough. And so we would go over to the jail over there. We would meet with these people that had spent the night in jail, and some of them had never been arrested before and have no idea what's going on. And as soon as we get in the front of the judge, they're frustrated because the attorney is not telling their story. They're not telling their story that, well, they have a twin brother and they think that this guy is the twin brother, and the twin is the one that always gets in trouble, not this one. And the attorney is not sharing that side of the story. The attorney is sharing like a script of things that the attorney is supposed to share just to get the bond set. Once the bond is set, then you have another preliminary hearing to really look at probable cause. Then you really delve into it. The first one is just high level. Did they have probable cause to arrest you, to seize you? Then the next hearing after your bond hearing is a preliminary hearing, and they then really delve into probable cause there, and they'll ask, that's where the police officer sits on the stand and is examined and cross-examined by the state and the public defender. And still, this is not the time for the person to tell their story. This is not the time. Some people are still in jail because they didn't get bond. The judge considered them a threat to society, or the judge thought that they wouldn't show up because they have a record of not showing up to court dates. So they've been sitting in jail this whole time. And again, this time is not the time to tell your side of the story. I would be so frustrated. It's been, months, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, you still can't tell your side of the story. After the preliminary hearing, if the judge finds, true on probable cause, then you start setting up your trial dates. And that doesn't happen in this city for like a year or more. And so if you don't get that, if you don't get the bond, you're sitting in jail that whole time. So it was fascinating. And once you get to court, hi, One Peaceful Mind, welcome. And so once you get to the trial date, then that's when you get to tell your side of the story. So you don't really get to tell your side of the story for like a year or more, which is just, that was mind blowing to me. So this is a long rant, 5-minute rant, 5-minute tangent on my time as a 7-Eleven licensed law student at the public defender's office. It was fascinating. But I got to go on the record. Hi, Life with Stephanie. Good morning. I got to go on the record. I got to stand in front of the judge and plead someone's case. It was great. Right? I didn't understand that at all. I would have been so frustrated, and I get it. I get these people, and then they start talking to the judge, and that's like a big no-no because so they start talking to the judge because they feel like the public defender isn't doing the job. Like, they're like, wait a minute, it's your job to represent me. Tell the judge my side of the story. Isn't that your job? And actually, in that first and second time in front of a judge, it isn't. And that's not clearly stated anywhere. Like, I didn't know that. I went through criminal procedure, criminal law. I went through all these classes. That didn't come up in my teaching. And it was fascinating. And then what happens is public defenders get a bad rap, and I actually I have learned that if I was ever to be arrested, I've never been arrested. If I was ever to be arrested, I would absolutely use the public defender for my first and second hearing. They're in front of these judges all the time. The judges know these attorneys. They're in front of the states, that they're working side by side with basically the same state's attorney. So everybody knows each other, and that rapport helps. And they also know how to get you the bond. Like, they know exactly what the judge wants to hear. And that's why it's not the time to tell your side of the story, because what they are putting forward, they have a limited amount of time. They have just a few minutes to get it past the judge that you're not going to be a threat if they let you out, and that you will return for your next court date. That is their sole focus. That is all that they need to communicate to the judge. They need to communicate it clearly. Doesn't matter what happened. And that would be so frustrating to me if I was incarcerated, if someone had taken away my liberty and I was innocent and I'm sitting in jail, and I've been in front of the judge not once but twice, and I still can't tell the judge I shouldn't be sitting here. Fascinating, right? Anyway. If you guys have any copyright questions, if I missed something, if you guys want to, collaborate, or if you want to use something that somebody owns as a copyright, somebody else owns the copyright on in a video, and you have questions, I'm happy to powwow. I can't give legal advice. This is not happening in a court, though. This is all happening in the world of YouTube, so I think maybe I can help. If I don't know the answer, I can find someone that does know the answer. I would like all my friends to avoid getting strikes. There's all sorts of ways to not get a strike, and I'd like to keep this little world here that I have going on in YouTube just super happy. A good place to be, where we can talk about other people's creations. We can use them if it somehow promotes what we're going after. And also, I'd like to help all the creators keep people from stepping on their rights. They earned this right. They came up with something. They deserve to control it. And that's what copyright law does. So if nobody has anything, I think I'm going to say goodbye. All right, everyone. As you live the dream this week, I hope that you be the change that you want to see, and rock on.